They say the truth always finds a way to come out, even if it takes a lifetime. This story begins in the luxurious halls of the Adebanjo mansion, one of the wealthiest families in the city. To the world they had everything: power, money, influence, but behind those golden gates there was a secret that could shatter lives. Mrs. Adebanjo, the wife of the billionaire, had given birth. But when the nurse whispered, "It's a girl," her face hardened. She knew her husband desperately wanted a son, an heir to carry his name, his empire, and his fortune. And in that moment, greed and fear twisted her heart. A cleaner at the hospital had also given birth that same night, a healthy baby boy. She was poor, desperate, and unnoticed in the corner ward. The billionaire's wife saw her chance. With a few harsh words and a heavy threat, the nurse did the unthinkable: she swapped the babies. The billionaire rejoiced, cradling what he thought was his newborn son, while the cleaner smiled tearfully at her little girl, never knowing her child had been stolen. From that night onward, two lives were set on paths they were never meant to walk. The years passed, and the two children grew up in entirely different worlds. In the mansion, young Daniel Adebanjo, who in truth was the cleaner's son, was raised in the lap of luxury. He had private tutors, the best toys, and a father who paraded him proudly as his heir. But behind the wealth, Daniel always felt something strange. His father's love was cold, almost forced. His mother's eyes carried guilt she could never wash away, no matter how many times she smiled at him. Across the city, in a small, cramped apartment behind the hospital, little Amara, the billionaire's true daughter, was raised by the cleaner. Life was not easy. She often went to bed hungry, her shoes worn out, her clothes patched and repatched. Yet Amara grew up with something money could never buy: warmth, love, and the fierce protection of a mother who believed her daughter was all she had in the world. While Daniel learned how to sit at grand dining tables, Amara knew how to share one loaf of bread with neighbors. While Daniel was chauffeured to school in expensive cars, Amara walked miles under the sun, her books clutched to her chest. Two children, two different worlds, and yet neither of them belonged where they were. By the time they reached their teenage years, the differences became harder to ignore. Daniel, the supposed billionaire's son, was restless. He had everything most boys could only dream of, yet he felt empty. His friends would joke that he looked nothing like his father. His features too different, his mannerisms strange. He buried the whispers under designer clothes and fast cars, but inside he questioned who he really was. Amara, on the other hand, carried herself with a quiet grace. Though she was poor, she walked with the dignity of a princess. Her teachers often marveled at her intelligence, her discipline, and the way she spoke as if she were born for greatness. Neighbors would tease her mother, saying, "That girl doesn't look like she belongs here. One day she'll rise higher than all of us." Still, Amara's heart ached. Why did life deal her such a hard hand? Why was she forced to struggle while others had everything? Little did she know, her blood carried a legacy worth billions. And while Daniel sat in marble halls, doubting himself, Amara stood in dusty classrooms, dreaming of a future she felt was slipping through her fingers. Two souls, both in the wrong places, both unknowingly staring at the lives they were truly meant to live. The turning point came slowly, like shadows creeping across the floor. One evening at a lavish dinner, Daniel overheard a group of business associates whispering to his father, "Chief Adebanjo, forgive us, but the boy doesn't quite resemble you, does he?" The billionaire's face tightened, his fist clenching around his wine glass. Daniel froze. He had heard rumors before, but hearing them so boldly shook him to his core. That night, he stared at his reflection in the mirror, searching for his father's eyes, his father's jawline, anything. But all he saw was a stranger staring back. Meanwhile, across the city, Amara faced her own struggles. Her mother had fallen ill, and Amara worked extra jobs to pay hospital bills. One day, while cleaning out some old boxes, she found something she wasn't supposed to see: a faded birth certificate. The name on it was unusual, and the hospital stamp dated from the same night she was born. Confused, she asked her mother, but the woman's trembling hands gave her away. Secrets were circling both children like wolves. Daniel's life of wealth felt like a lie he couldn't explain. Amara's life of poverty suddenly seemed too suspicious to ignore. Neither of them knew it yet, but the truth was preparing to rip their worlds apart. It all came crashing down with a single test. Daniel had fallen sick. Nothing too serious, but serious enough for doctors to demand a few genetic samples. His father, Chief Adebanjo, agreed to routine checks, but when the results returned, the doctor hesitated to speak. Finally, in a hushed tone, he said the words that froze the room. "Sir, your son's DNA does not match yours. He is not biologically related to you." The billionaire's face turned pale. Daniel felt the ground vanish beneath his feet. His entire life, his name, his inheritance, his very identity, suddenly felt like a lie. At the same time, Amara's world was spinning too. Her mother's illness grew worse, and in her feverish state she began to mutter confessions she had hidden for decades. Through tears she whispered, "Amara, you were never meant to live like this. You are not my daughter. You belong to them." Confused and terrified, Amara pressed her mother for answers. All she could piece together was that the night she was born, something happened at the hospital. Something that had stolen her destiny. 2 children, 2 different homes, 2 truths surfacing at the exact same time. The storm was finally here. It was the cleaner, the woman who had raised Amara, who carried the heaviest truth of all. One night, as Amara sat by her mother's bedside, the frail woman gripped her hand tightly. Her voice shook, but her eyes burned with the weight of secrets buried too long. "Amara, the night you were born, you were not the child they gave me. You belonged to the Adebanjos. The nurse, she swapped you with my son. I had no choice. I was too poor, too powerless to stop it. I raised you as my own because I loved you, but you were never mine by blood." Amara's heart stopped. The billionaire's family? Her father was Chief Adebanjo? The man who owned half the city? Please, if you are enjoying the video, please like, share and subscribe. Thank you. Across town, Daniel's mother was facing her own breaking point. Chief Adebanjo, furious and betrayed, confronted her after the DNA results. Under his threats, she finally confessed the unthinkable. "I couldn't give you the son you wanted. I gave birth to a girl. So I made the nurse swap her with the cleaner's boy. I did it for you, for us." Chief Adebanjo's roar shook the mansion. His entire legacy, his pride, his son, it was all a lie built on deceit. And just like that, the truth had surfaced. Daniel was not his son. Amara was. 2 families. 2 children. 2 worlds about to collide. When the truth finally reached the children, it hit like thunder. Daniel was called into his father's study, the air heavy with rage and disappointment. Chief Adebanjo's words cut deep. "You are not my blood. Everything I gave you, this house, this name, this wealth, it was never yours to begin with." Daniel's heart shattered. He had lived in luxury all his life, but now he realized he had no real claim to any of it. The woman he thought was his mother avoided his eyes, drowning in guilt. He wasn't just losing a father, he was losing an entire identity. Meanwhile, Amara was summoned to the mansion for the first time in her life. She walked through the giant iron gates with trembling steps, her faded shoes clicking against marble floors she had only seen in magazines. When she entered the hall, her eyes met Daniel's, 2 strangers, yet somehow bound by fate. Daniel's face was twisted with pain and anger, while Amara's was filled with disbelief and fear. Chief Adebanjo looked at Amara, his hands trembling, tears welling up in his eyes. "My daughter, all these years you lived in hardship while I paraded another as my heir. Forgive me." Amara's knees weakened. Her life, her struggles, her dreams, all of it suddenly made sense. However, as truth brought them together, it also began to tear them apart. Daniel glared at Amara, his voice bitter. "So it's you. You're the real one. You're the billionaire's child, and I'm just the cleaner's son." And in that moment 2 lives collided, one losing everything, the other gaining a crown she never asked for. The Adebanjo mansion, once a palace of pride, turned into a battlefield of broken hearts. Chief Adebanjo raged like a lion betrayed. He confronted his wife, his voice echoing through the halls. "You stole my daughter's life. You condemned her to poverty, while you forced me to love a son that wasn't mine." His wife fell to her knees, begging for forgiveness, but her tears only fueled his fury. Daniel, standing at the edge of the room, felt invisible. The man he had called father now looked at him with disgust. The mother who raised him was a stranger cloaked in lies. He was neither a son nor an heir, just a boy who didn't belong anywhere. Amara, on the other hand, was drowning in confusion. Overnight, she was thrust into a world of chandeliers, servants, and wealth beyond imagination. Yet every corner of the mansion reminded her of the family who had raised her in love and sacrifice. How could she call this place home when her heart still beat for the poor woman who had wiped her tears all her life? The city buzzed with whispers. Newspapers leaked the scandal. Billionaire's true daughter found living in poverty. The story spread like wildfire. Some envied Amara's sudden rise, others mocked Daniel's fall. 2 lives shattered, 2 families destroyed. And beneath it all, one question echoed louder than the rest. Who are we if everything we've ever known turns out to be a lie? Life at that moment placed both Daniel and Amara at a crossroads. For Daniel, the walls of the mansion felt like a prison now. The servants who once bowed to him no longer respected him. His friends disappeared as quickly as smoke, mocking him behind his back. He was no longer Daniel Adebanjo, the billionaire's son. He was just the cleaner's child. But deep down he wondered, could he survive without the wealth he had always depended on? Could he build a name of his own without his father's empire behind him? Amara's struggle was different. Chief Adebanjo wanted to crown her publicly as his true heir, the daughter he had been denied all those years. Expensive gowns were laid before her, lawyers rushed to change documents, and reporters begged for her story. But when Amara closed her eyes, all she could see was the frail woman who had raised her, coughing in a tiny apartment, waiting for the daughter she loved more than life itself. Could Amara truly abandon the mother who gave her everything, even if not by blood? One night, Daniel found Amara alone in the mansion's garden. He stared at her with a bitterness that softened into sorrow. "You don't know what it's like, to be given everything only to lose it all in one breath." Amara turned to him, her eyes glistening. "And you don't know what it's like, to live with nothing only to find out you were meant to have it all along. Neither of us chose this, Daniel. But we must choose who we want to be now." The silence between them was heavy. Two children, scarred by a truth they never asked for, forced to make decisions that would define the rest of their lives. The day of reckoning came when Chief Adebanjo gathered both Daniel and Amara before the world's eyes. The press filled the mansion, cameras flashing, microphones pointed, eager to capture history. With a heavy heart, Chief Adebanjo placed his hand on Amara's shoulder. "This is my true daughter. The rightful heir to my name, my empire, my legacy." The room erupted with applause and gasps. Amara stood frozen, her body wrapped in silk, her soul wrapped in chains of guilt. Daniel stood in the corner, silent. The boy who once lived as a prince was now an outcast. The billionaire's eyes barely met his, as if his existence was a stain he wished to erase. But then, something no one expected happened. Amara stepped forward. Her voice trembled, but her words struck like lightning. "I may be your daughter by blood, but I will not abandon the woman who raised me. She is my mother no matter what the world says. And if you ask me to cut her off, then I would rather walk away from all of this." Gasps filled the hall. Chief Adebanjo's jaw dropped. Reporters scribbled furiously. Daniel, for the first time, felt tears well in his eyes. He had spent years drowning in wealth but starving of love. Amara had grown in poverty but overflowing with it. And in that moment he understood something he had never known. Blood defines where you come from, but love defines where you belong. The twist? Months later, the empire Daniel thought he had lost forever came calling back, not through inheritance but through hard work. He started from scratch, using skills no one thought he had, and built a small business of his own. Slowly, painfully, he carved a name that was truly his. Amara, meanwhile, divided her life between two worlds, the glittering mansion and the tiny apartment where her mother lay. She never forgot her roots, and she never let money erase her humanity. And so, the story closed not with a perfect ending but with a powerful truth. We don't choose the blood in our veins, but we choose the family in our hearts. Please, if you enjoyed the video, please like, share, subscribe and turn on your notifications.